Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me, Rob. Let's break down some of these positional players.
Oh, yes. So today I'm here with Rob in spirit because we are pre-recording this episode here because here I am in the podcast studio. But when this is going live, I'll be in Honduras, sipping on some local rum, enjoying some locally sourced chocolates.
Ooh, chocolate.
I'll be hanging out with sloths and monkeys at a zoo.
I'll be commenting on our YouTube page.
Yeah. Listen, I'm telling you, I'm like, this is one of my bucket list items ever is to hold a sloth. So I'm kind of excited about it. I don't know why. It's just an animal just dangling from your neck. I don't know why. I don't want to do it so bad.
Covered in bacteria and other microorganisms.
We're all covered in bacteria. It is what it is. So
their back's an ecosystem. It's amazing.
It happens.
Oh.
Speaking of covered in bacteria, let's talk about the tight ends.
Ooh.
So today, guys, we're going to go over the tight ends here for the New York Giants currently on the active roster, discuss all the individual players we got here, go over, of course, for you guys there, if we think we need to do something at that position, and then, of course, also go over, is this an improved position or are we worse off the last year, and where are we at there as we kind of break everything down here for you guys. So, of course, we can't go over any group on this team whatsoever, an offense especially, and not mention this man because it's like the biggest thing left this offseason. Will he play? Will he not play? And that is
he a lock?
One, the only Darren Waller. Will he retire to rap, be the next Slim Shady? Because all the other Slim Shady just imitating. But will the real Darren Waller please stand up? Please stand up. So, yeah, Darren Waller, 6'6", 245 pounds, now 31 years old. Last year, 12 games, 11 starts, 52 receptions, 552 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 69.4 PFF grade, which I got to say was a higher grade than I expected, considering how bad he is at blocking. Like, let's be honest, he's just basically.
Yeah, he's just an oversized receiver, pretty much.
That's basically what he is. So I was kind of shocked by that. I guess the first question we got here to answer is, do we think he's going to play? And Rob, I'll let you go first. What do you think?
Yeah, this has been something that's been going all over. I wouldn't be surprised either way, but I think he plays. I think he's, with everything that's going on, I think he's going to need something to be clutch in his life, and he's going to try to play.
Yeah, I mean,
like if he was going to
divorce, I assume you mean
divorce. Like, who knows? Like, is he like on the temptation of relapsing? So Temptation Island. Yeah, he could be on Temptation Island. So keeping your mind off that and concentrate on the sport. The job that's gave you the lifestyle you had today. It's probably not a bad idea.
I'm wondering.
Dedication.
I got 2 things I think could possibly be happening here. One, he just doesn't love doing it anymore, and that's fine. Listen.
Yeah,
it's easy for us as fans to say, I would play forever. We're fans. Of course, it's a dream we haven't fulfilled. It was his dream when he was going to college at Georgia Tech, I believe, off the top of my head. That was his dream. He fulfilled his dream. He's played at a very high level now for a lot of years. He's definitely on the back half of, his career, having issues the last couple of years, injuries, trying to rehab, trying to get back. Got the added, and I've never heard anybody mention this part of it here, but I mean, he's got the added issue of he's got to be careful coming back from injuries because of what medications he can or can't take because of his past. If you got somebody who's a recovering addict, you kind of have to be careful what you give them, because you give something that's really addicting, which a lot of painkillers and muscle relaxers, all that kind of stuff are.
Just synthetic heroin.
You got to be careful on that scenario. So, it takes a lot out of you. And he might just be at the point where he's like, you know what? I've just spent the last 3 years not being able to play a full season, trying to recuperate, and I'm just done.
Yeah.
That may be where he's at. My other thought process is that he's gone Gronk. He just doesn't want to do training camp.
Could be.
I mean, I don't know. I honestly think the Giants know. And the big thing, obviously, we'll get to this guy in a little bit here, but the fact that the Giants drafted Theo Johnson tells me that they don't think he's coming back. With all the holes we have in this offense and defense, this whole roster as a whole, I should say, I don't think the Giants spend a pick on a tight end specifically if they thought Waller was coming back with all those holes. There's a lot we didn't fill, let's be honest here.
That's correct. And you're not going to fix it in one draft. And the thing is, they saw Bellinger his freshman year, then his sophomore year not play so much is because he's next to Waller, is because he is injured, like whatever's going on. But the Giants have always, for most of the Giants' careers, had, as a team organization, they've had pretty good tight ends. Were they Gronks? Were they, we had a Jeremy Shockey, but
yeah, we have Shockey, we have Mark Bavaro.
That's what I'm saying. We've had good tight ends that we homegrown. So tight. They definitely spot.
But yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's just if he's going to play, hypothetically, I think what he gave us last year should probably be our expectations at this point. I mean, he spent the last 3 seasons now basically on and out of injuries at that point.
It's
been, what, 2020 or 2021 was his last time he had 1,000 yards. It's not like he's been that player now for a while. He's older. He's had more injuries. He's got personal issues, obviously, going on with, with the divorce from Kelsey Plum, the WNBA star. I mean, there's a lot going on there. But I still think a 75% Darren Waller is better than 75% of the tight ends out there.
100%.
At least from a receiving aspect. I mean, obviously, again, he's never been a great blocker. That's a whole other issue. But as far as a weapon, we keep talking about how we want to see an exciting offense. We want to see an offense that gets things going. You're not going to have that. But you're not going to have that without having some kind of tight end play. Now, he's not the only one who can provide that. Don't get me wrong. We'll get into the rest of the guys here in a little bit. But he is the most proven weapon in that tight end room. And even
battling through injuries,
even with the games missed. Again, we talked about it. His yards per game was not that far off. It's just he's playing less games. 12 games, 552 yards. You got to think that a couple of the games he was barely in because of injuries as well. But again, that would have put him at 750, 800 yards at that point, not even including looking at what games he barely played because of the injuries. He's still a top flight receiving tight end. He's just one that you can't count on to be healthy because he's shown you now in the last 3 years he can't do that. He's still a special player. He's just has trouble because it's a track record now. So I think you probably get around the same, around 500-600 yards to that guy at that point. Have 1 or 2 injuries where he misses a few games, and you need to have a good, group of backups, which obviously we're going to go over here in a minute there. And that's if he plays. And I think it's 50-50 at that point, if not 75-25 towards him retiring. Because it's a little late in the season to make that call, unless he was trying to avoid training camp. I got to think if he wanted to play and knew it for sure, he'd be there.
I'll be there.
But I don't know. Maybe it's me being hopeful because I want him to play. I think he's a good player. But again, the fact that we drafted, the fact that nothing's happened makes me think we're going to be saying goodbye to Darren Waller very soon.
And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also kind of lean towards the other end of that spectrum. I think there's more of an opportunity for him to come back than retiring. But at the same time, I understand what you're saying and I get it.
What if he goes on a rap tour? You never know.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
Wow.
Go. Best rap ever.
Wow.
And the best movie ever.
You say best rap ever. Go Ninja Go.
By Vanilla Ice.
Well, I know who it was, obviously. I'm not
See,
questioning
you know who it
the
is.
name of the player.
Best.
I'm questioning the talent level that you're suggesting is there. So
he's still touring. You think Tupac's still touring? You think Biggie Smalls still touring?
Yeah,
they're
still touring with Elvis and Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
And the Big Bopper. I hope they don't take a plane. Anyway, let's get into our next guy here. Daniel Bellinger, who, of course, had this great rookie year. A guy that we thought a lot of promise, we had a lot of expectations going to year 2. And then we get Darren Waller. And then we're like, okay, what do we expect now? Should we damper the expectations because he's not going to be necessarily the number 1 tight end, even though he'll still be on the field with Waller as well quite often? Should we expect maybe better things because he's less covered because people are worrying about Darren Waller? And yeah, he basically comes into having basically the worst year he possibly could have had. I hate to say it that way and be so negative, but that was a bad year for him. So again, Daniel Bellinger, 6'5", 253 pounds, still just 23 years old. Last year, 17 games, technically had 13 starts, 25 receptions, 225 yards, and a PFF grade of 49.1. Now, my issues with him, and it's not even issues as far as him catching the ball and that, it's that his bread and butter was blocking. And there was a lot of penalties he had. There was a lot of, issues that he had that were ill-timed. Not just like penalties, like, oh, holding, my bad. It was like holding on third down kind of holdings. Like it was drive-killing penalties that I remember happening, at least a few times there during pivotal times of games. But then you throw in the fact that, again, 255 yards, whether right or wrong, I think a lot of us were expecting a little bit of a jump, perhaps, from his rookie year. You want to see an improvement. And he had 5 less receptions. He had 13 less yards. So, and he didn't have a single touchdown last year, where he had 2 at least the year before. So, there was definitely a lot to be desired. Now, whenever a player has a bad year, in my head mentally, I'm like, okay, were they injured? I don't remember any injuries being involved with him, but listen, anytime you go through, you get injured or you get hurt. It's like that old football. What football movie is that? Are you hurt or are you injured? He probably was. Possibly was hurt. Was it the program?
I don't remember. Little Giants. Definitely Little Giants.
Definitely Little Giants. It's like the program with Alka-Seltzer. But yeah, I mean, you got to wonder. I mean, was he at all maybe battling something we weren't aware of? Because it's just weird because I expect variables in his receiving skills because he's, again, guys, we drafted him knowing that he was a blocking tight end. We didn't know what to expect receiving wise. He's still kind of learning that part of football. I expected good blocking, and I don't think we got that from him necessarily. And again, you couple that with the issues as far as the the penalties,
the offensive line.
It's a bad year, and that probably hurt him too. You're bringing up a very valid point. I mean, you're blocking next to Evan Neal. Good luck.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like, oh, you could catch the ball, but we really need you to block this year because the guy that's supposed to be blocking on the right side, well, guess what? We need you to help.
So, but I mean, again, Evan Neal sucked the year before as well. Oh, that's bad. Leave it to us to have a random video become a bashing of Evan Neal, the burger flipper. I mean, but it's gonna hurt him. But again, he had that the prior year. I think, I wonder, and I know publicly he said everything nice about Darren Waller in that edition, but I remember there was some stuff his dad said on Twitter that kind of got a little people riled up there. I wonder if part of it was the fact that he's like, shit, I had a good rookie year, and then you guys bring in Darren Waller. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that was part of it. I mean, I don't know. It's only he knows that part, and his close friends and family. But
I don't.
I'll tell you this: if
I
I'm
get what you're
him,
saying.
I'm not too happy.
You don't have to be happy, but that's also motivation to play better because you're still going to want to get paid when your rookie deal is up.
Obviously, but you're now a backup in your mind. You know what I mean? Like, even though again he had 12 starts or 13 starts out of 17 games, technically, because it's double tight end sets and Waller being hurt. But you also got to look at the fact that eliminates some of the opportunities for you. You're going to have less times in the field. You're going to have less times. You're a more viable option. There's not a lot of plays specifically designed to throw the ball to the backup tight end. There are some, don't get me wrong, but now you're like receiving option number 5 or 6. It's sometimes, like.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I think the idea last year, which was not executed, was double tight end set with, doing a whole bunch of 12, 22s, 21 set tight end, running back formations and do quick dunk plays. We talked about that at the beginning of the year. And if that was the case, then us go get Waller and say, hey, Bellinger, I know we just drafted you. You had a good year, but this is what we're going to do. Remember when Gronkowski was next to what's his face that hung himself? Hernandez. Like,
wow. What's his face that hung himself?
Sorry, guys. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they both are great. You wouldn't say like there's one that was receiver number 6.
No, but
they were both.
Do you really think that
who backed up who in that situation?
Oh, but Hernandez was clearly the backup. But what I'm saying is he was clearly more talented than Bellinger is. I mean, let's be very frank there. That's just what it is.
It is, and you also Tom Brady in the backfield, so Dan Jones.
He's a nicer guy for record, though.
Yeah, touche.
He didn't kill anybody. But I look at this season with Bellinger and I go, you know what? I'm willing to put behind the 23 season and say you had a role maybe that had some issues there with being tight end number 2. You had issues where you're blocking a lot more because of the offensive line. Maybe having bad people next to you blocking kind of hurt you to a certain degree. I mean, let's be honest. Andrew Thomas, even as great as he is and as great as he was last year, he still wasn't Andrew Thomas of the year prior because he also was dealing with injuries. So correct. you gotta look at everything and go, you know what? Let's throw it up as a wash. Let's see what happens next year. Let's call it a day. And hopefully he can go back to being the uprising kind of, player at that point, like he was his rookie year. And we just kind of chalk it up to the entire Giants team sucking last year. And he gets kind of a gimme as long as he comes back to being a more solid player. If he continues, then we're like, okay, now this is 2 years of it.
As I'm saying, if he plays the same or degresses, then that's when you start looking to be like, all right, well,
this could be the season that determines what kind of player people think he is. Basically, it could be that important of a season for Bellinger. You could argue it's potentially the most important season of any Giants tight end on the we're going to talk about here today. So
it 100% is.
All righty, let's go into the young buck here next. Oh yes, the young buck.
Oh yeah,
the young Nittany Lion. Theo Johnson, the rookie tight end here. Obviously, we've talked about him a little the last couple weeks there, so we've been going over all the players with you guys that we've drafted here this season here. So again, 6'6", 254 pounds, 23 years old. Last year at Penn State, 13 games, 34 receptions, 341 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Again, this is a guy that was drafted purely for athletic skills and what we think we can get out of him. And for whatever reason, that didn't get out of him in college. I think that Bellinger has to step up if Waller retires, because I don't think it's fair to put Theo Johnson, who's basically a developmental prospect,
correct,
in a starting role and expect crazy things about him. Now, I will say this. Out of potentially all the players, at least on the offensive side of the ball, as I try to think about it right now, Theo Johnson is the biggest mystery to me. He's like a mystery wrapped up in an enigma smothered in secret sauce here.
Ooh.
I could see him being the guy who comes in the rookie year, like Laporta last year, and being a really good tight end, a reliable, touchdown catch kind of guy, having like, a 500-600 yard season. And I could also see him riding the bench most of the season and learning the position and, refining everything. And I can also see him kind of doing similar to what Bellinger did his rookie year and having a few hundred yards and showing you some promise and guys getting excited about his future. All three of those options, which, let's be honest, probably one of those three is where he's going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Pretty much your options you have.
A, B, and C. Actually, all three of these options.
But all three of them, honestly, I see as legitimate possibilities. And I think it's kind of crazy to expect one of them, because what it really boils down to is how much of it was the system and the coaching that was slowing him down at Penn State, and how much is it him still having to learn the nuances, so to speak, of the game and just being that raw. Sometimes it's you coach things and you coach a couple of things, they just kind of snap and they got it. Sometimes it takes a little bit. And, unfortunately, the only people that know the answer to that are people that have been with him on a team or been a coach of his before, that know what kind of, coachable player he is and how quick he picks up on stuff. But again, this guy has the athletic profile, if you look at everything he did at the combine, of Jimmy Graham. That's the kind of athletic profile we're talking about. Now, am I expecting Jimmy Graham from him? Obviously not. This guy was like a Pro Bowler, was a 1,000-yard receiver. I think that's a little ridiculous to expect it of anybody being drafted, let alone someone being drafted in the mid rounds there at that point. A fourth-round pick does not usually become the next Jimmy Graham. But Jimmy Graham also, I think he was either much higher or even undrafted, if I remember correctly. I have to look it up.
I think he was undrafted because I think he was a basketball player that converted to tight end.
That's what I want to say. That's what I'm saying, So, and you never know. And listen, every single year. By the way, he's drafted in the third round, so actually he's kind of close. Every single year, though, there's one or two players that are kind of mid-round tight ends that tend to make it. I mean, again, we've talked about this before with tight ends. The best tight ends out there are guys who were drafted in the third, fourth round. Sometimes later.
Yeah.
The first round tight ends just don't seem to make it for whatever reason. Sorry, Brock Bowers. Sorry, Raider fans.
I was about to say, they get drafted by the Raiders.
They just have troubles for whatever reason. This is the hardest thing that the scouts have trouble looking at there. They can't figure it out for whatever reason. So, again, everybody that does a lot of scouting, and I feel like people that look at the advanced profiles and the athletic stuff specifically love this kid. They do. They honestly think that the ceiling is the limit for this guy. But I don't know. I look at production. I like to see production.
Yeah.
And
the problem is his floor's in the basement.
Yeah. So, again, anything he does doesn't shock me. I go in here with no expectations this year for Theo Johnson. I don't think it's fair to put it on him, considering, there's a learning curve for him, and, there's going to be some trials and tribulations there, so to speak. Not just because he's a rookie, because he's a rookie that's going to have to be taught a lot of things because of how raw he is.
Correct.
So we'll see what happens there. But again, a lot of people have high hopes. They've got high hopes. High hopes. All righty. Next up, we got some vets here to talk about as well. So, yes, the vets. First up on the vet train here, check it. Jack Stahl, formerly of the Eagles. Oh yes, we're stealing from the other side now. They stole Barkley, we stole Jack Stoll. Take that.
Oh. Yes, take that.
that evens it out.
Wow.
So yeah, he's played the last 3 seasons in Philly. Played a total of 50 games, 26 of them starts. Again, obviously they've had some issues with their tight end, their star tight end Dallas, as far as injuries there. So he's definitely had to step in sometimes. But this guy's a blocking tight end. This is exactly what he is. I mean, last year, 17 games, 10 starts, 5 catches, 38 yards. I think that tells you right there what he is. Yeah, exactly. So, you got to go into expecting that same kind of performance. I don't think they were holding him back, saying, "Oh, sorry, we can't throw you the ball." Like,
Yeah.
but he still, even as bad as he was in the passing game, had a 52.1 PFF grade. This guy's a good blocker. That's what he is. But it's almost like having a third tackle out there that once in a while you throw the ball to, kind of like Howard Cross back in the day. We give you one catch per game. You know, like that's the way Howard Cross was. That's the way the position was though for years as well. Keep in mind.
That's
So
it for a long time. I mean, like 30, like 3 times a game.
Yeah,
if you're lucky, once a quarter.
There wasn't many Kellen Winslow's or Mark Bavaros back then. You know, it was until Tony Gonzalez, I think, is the one I actually give credit to changing the position, really making it more of a receiving thing. He was that guy.
Probably that's probably fair.
Everybody else kind of started from there. I still say he's actually the best tight end ever to play the game, by the way. Gonzalez, I still say. Just because he was a good blocker, too.
I was saying, you could definitely.
And he did it for so long.
Yes.
Gronk probably is the most talented, but Gronk didn't have the drive that Gonzalez did to play for so many years and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and as much of a meathead as he is, he had the smarts.
I mean, fun personality. Anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, again, I think that the Giants are smart because they're bringing in a bunch of blocking tight ends because they've realized we've had issues with running the ball, passing the ball, and basically everything involving the ball because of the offensive line.
Especially on the right side.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a lot of new offensive linemen added on, but to have a guy like Jack Stahl who's got, a few years of experience there being a good blocker, he's still just 26 years old, so he's still young. You bring him in, some other guys that we'll talk about in a little bit. You hold on to one guy that's specifically a blocking tight end that when the line is struggling, you can put him in there and help shore it up there and give Daniel Jones or whoever some time to throw the ball, because we can't have a repeat of last year. That can't happen. There'll be mutiny, not just in the fandom, but probably in the locker room, to be very frank. I'm surprised that Dable held on to the locker room the way he did, because when you have a defense that's doing good and you have an offense doing bad things will happen. Ask Dan Reeves when he got to the Giants what happened, because that whole locker room was divided between the offense and the defense. They even took sides of the locker room. I remember that being an issue. So, like I said, it's going to be. I think it's a more important role as blocking tight end potential than a lot of people are realizing there. And it might be the year that they keep not just 3, maybe 4 tight ends on there, just to have one or two guys specifically to block and have that abilities there. So
it's amazing.
Jack Stahl
they could have done that last year.
Yeah. Well, they didn't pay attention to the position. A lot of things fell apart.
It's true.
So, all righty. Next up, we have another veteran to go over here. And this is one of our typical vets we've had the last couple of years. And that's Lawrence Cager. Of course, the converted wide receiver he originally got from the Jets. He was cut by them at the end of the preseason there a couple seasons ago. And he's what he is. He's a decent receiving tight end because he was wide receiver. 6'5", 220 pounds, 26 years old now. Last year, 11 games, 0 starts, 4 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. So really didn't get a lot of time last year to kind of show what he can do. Now, the year before, remember we had so many issues.
Tommy DeVito a touchdown?
I'd have to look that up to see, to be honest, who it was. But yeah, the year before with us, he had 13 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown. So he's never lit it up. Let's be very frank in that. He's got 189 career yards. But but I think what he did last year with us is probably where he needs to be. A guy that you pop on the practice squad, because he's so limited as far as blocking. And he's not that great a receiver to warrant that kind of position. He's not Waller.
He's a team.
Let's put it that way. I know. He's the Timu that gets lost in the mail version of Waller. Like I said, no offense to him. I listen. I've never heard a bad thing said about him by anybody in the team. I like the energy he brings when he does make catches and all, but he's just not the same player as a Waller. Not that many are. We talked about that, but he's a guy that probably that's where he's at. He's that borderline NFL player. Like if he was a better blocker, he'd probably be a backup tight end. But because he's purely a receiving tight end,
It's like a
he ends up on
specialist
the
almost.
practice squad. Yeah. And he might not be even our practice squad this year. Who knows? But I think someone will stash him on a practice squad and go, you know what? If I get hurt,
The Raiders.
our offense is slowing down. I want to try to get a little extra weapon here. I got this option here. So, not the worst option in the world. That's for damn sure.
Gonna say.
Yeah, you can do a whole lot worse. Next up there, another former Eagle there. Tyrique Jackson. Talk about trouble finding a picture when I was trying to make this at this point. That's why he's got the helmet thing on, the anti-concussion helmet gear and all. Had to find a practice picture to find a picture of him in a Giants uniform there. It was not easy, folks. The work I put into the show. 6'7", 249 pounds there. 26 years old still. Last year, 2 games, 0 starts, not a single catch. Well, in his entire career, and he's been in 16 games, again, mostly with the Eagles. 3 catches, 22 yards. That's where he's at. And I can't believe at his height he's not a better option
would think
for an
so.
end zone. Like, yeah. This is that guy. This is that guy you kind of expect for some reason he can do that.
Well, I mean, it's got like half a foot on.
Seriously. He really does. Like, jump ball. Yep, I got it. Boom.
Yeah.
Like, that's where he's at. So, a little disappointing with that kind of body, not be able to do that kind of stuff there. Honestly, I think he's probably mostly a camp body that if he makes a team, either something went very wrong, something went very right for him.
Yeah.
or he ends up getting stashed on the practice squad at that point. But I don't think you stash multiple, and you got a relationship longer with Cager. He's got a skill specifically that you don't really have much on. We have other blocking tight ends. So I'm not so sure there's a spot for Jackson. I'm not so sure. And
he's getting the opportunity. He's a practice body. He's going to help, some guys, pretty much practice, get loosened up, but
help some guy pretty much practice on the practice squad.
Pretty much. Because he's probably not going to be back up. He's probably going to get cut before the season starts.
Did we get Booger McFarland here in the show?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, again, he hasn't done much the last couple of years. It's hard for me to get excited about this kind of player, to be honest with you. Not to be a jerk about it, but I mean, he started 3 games, had 9 games overall his rookie season. That's where all of his catches are. And since then, he's just popped in to block a couple times a game, and that's it. So, again, probably not going to make the roster unless something goes extremely wrong or he all of a sudden surprises us all. Who knows? You never know. You never know. All right. We got one more guy, and this is a new guy. Chris Manhertz. That's one of the guys we signed this offseason here last year with the Broncos. 16 games, 4 starts, 2 catches, 16 yards. And he's another guy, blocking tight end. Again, that's a theme here we got. He's got, keep in mind, he's a little bit more long in the tooth than some of the guys we're talking about here. He's 32 years old. So he's got some years than everybody else there. In 120 career games, he's got 26 catches for 271 yards. In 120 games. Yes. So again, not much of a receiving threat there, that's for sure. But again, he's a good blocker. And that's where this all boils down to, is all the Giants are going to do is try to give some help for the offensive line because they're going to need it. And I think the line will be better than last year. We'll talk about that in a couple episodes here. But they need help. Manhertz got a 56.5 PFF grade last year. Only 2 receptions on 3 targets. I mean, he's that guy. He's like an extra tackle that once in a blue moon you throw it to. And what it's going to boil down to is Jack Stahl, Tyrique Jackson, or Chris Manhertz will probably make this roster. One of them will. And if I had to guess on who, it'd be Chris Manhertz because he's got all the experience. He's shown he can do it on a consistent basis there. You know, he's all 16 games last year. Did worked with the Jaguars the year before that for 2 years. Helped with their blocking tight end with having our old tight end and Ingram. See what the small world. And then before that, 4 years with Carolina. You know, well, 4.5 years with Carolina, I should say. I mean, he's been around the league a little while. He's been playing since 2016. It's 8 years, guys. I know it doesn't sound like it. It's a lot of years, but it's 8 years. Actually, it's 9 years. Take it back. My math's wrong. So, almost 10 years. This will be his 10th year in the league. That's what I would keep. And you know what? You hope a guy like that can help teach Theo Johnson blocking techniques. Daniel Bellinger
I was going to
blocking
say,
techniques. He's been doing it for almost a decade.
And he's already been helping. So
you don't get that from the 26-year-old. You get that from the 32-year-old.
Yes.
So
it makes all the difference.
That's my guy I would keep at that point. Yeah, that's my guy I would keep. And I would keep Cager on the practice squad, and either Jackson or Stowell I might try to stash there as well, depending on how many tight ends I want to keep. But I mean, honestly, I think those are guys you can get off the streets later on. Again, not trying to be cruel.
Most likely.
But it's not like they're that.
Or poach it from another practice squad.
Like, yeah. Or somebody just like it, another practice squad. Blocking tight ends, for the most part, kind of a dime of a dozen, unless they're really good. Or they have a long career or something like that, like Manhertz does. So, yeah, so that's my pick. That's who I think we should keep there as our blocking tight end. So, look at the roster now on the tight end position specifically. And especially the issues with Waller. It makes you think, should we add a free agent to the tight end group? Without Waller, I mean, let's be honest, what you got? You got Daniel Bellinger. One good year, one bad year. You got Theo Johnson, a rookie that you have no clue what to expect from. A couple blocking tight ends, and a guy who's a decent receiving option off the bench. That's what you got.
Yeah.
Kind of leaves the position a little bit.
Yeah. Just want to pay the bills before we get into these tight ends.
Oh.
We'll
pay the bill afterwards.
All right.
We'll do it after. We already started this segment. We'll do it afterwards.
All right.
So here's the options. I was looking up. We got best options here available. And again, I always caution people with this because I know somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, these guys suck." Listen, what do you expect? It's May, guys.
Yeah.
It's May. Like the draft is over, and these guys are still there. You're not gonna get the best of the best, sir. Not gonna happen. But we do have one, I think, intriguing option if he was cheap enough, and if the Giants wanted to go that route. Yeah, and that's Logan Thomas. With the Commanders last year, 55 receptions, 496 yards, 4 touchdowns, 32 years old now. He's getting a little long in the tooth there, but as a 1-year stopgap kind of guy, I couldn't hate it. Like, let's say we want to keep 4 tight ends, and we go ahead and say, you know what, fine, let's get Logan Thomas. We're going to go ahead and keep Bellinger, obviously, and Theo Johnson. Let's keep Chris Manhertz as a blocking tandem. We'll keep four tight ends in the roster. Now you have 2 young, 2 old. One good at receiving, one good at blocking that can teach the youngins. It's like I said, it's a dynamic I could see potentially working. Now, the one issue you always have with Logan Thomas, though, is he would probably fit right in with the Giants because he can never stay healthy.
I was going to say so.
It's always the issue with him. He's that guy that you look at and go, if he could have just stayed healthy, what kind of player would he been? That's honestly where he is. Because last year, was the second most receiving yards he's ever had. He's only had 2,000 receiving yards in his career, guys. And you think back at Logan Thomas and how long he's been around, and you go, no, that can't be right. Because every single year he's been that guy. Oh, this will be the year he breaks out. This will be the year he breaks out. And a lot of that was especially because his first year at Washington was his best year at 670 yards, 6 touchdowns, 72 receptions. I mean, that's pretty damn good numbers there. You can put that up consistently, you're a legit receiving tight end. But then he only played in 6 games the next year. And he just hasn't been the same the last couple of years. But he's still been better than what we have in the roster, especially from a receiving threat option. So, like I said, if he's cheap enough, and that's a route the Giants might want to do, I'd be kind of curious about it. Another option we got is Robert Tonyan, former Packer, played with the Bears last year, 11 receptions, 112 yards. He's 30 years old. He had 586 yards, was his maximum receiving back in 2020 with the Packers there. Primarily used as a blocking tight end last year. Obviously, he was the backup tight end, basically to Cole Kmet, who was kind of their semi-star at that point there. Honestly, it doesn't excite me. I don't think of him as okay, this is better than something else that we have right now. Besides Tyrique Jackson. No. Another option. It's a big name now. Jimmy Graham.
Only 337 years old.
Yeah. Played last year with the Saints, 6 receptions, 39 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Imagine having 4 touchdowns and 6 receptions. That's crazy. He's 37 years old, obviously a 2-time 1,000-yard receiver with the Saints there way back in the day, back before electricity roamed the earth. But yeah, he's just done. Again, he's 37 years old, guys. He even played the year before. He was out of the league for a year.
Yeah, the Saints brought it back because that offense couldn't do anything.
Yep. He did something. I mean, I'm not saying the guy's done, but I'm just saying when we're rebuilding, I don't know if a 37-year-old tight end we have no prior affiliation to is what I want to bring in.
Correct.
So the other option is bringing a 40-year-old tight end, Mercedes Lewis, who also last year played with the Bears. 4 receptions, 29 yards. He's a pure blocking tight end at this point in his career. He was a one-time Pro Bowler back in the day with the Jags and had a couple good years for them. But that seems like a decade and a half ago because it was a decade and a half ago. He's turning 40 this month. 18-year veteran. 18 years in the NFL.
Especially at the tight end spot. My God.
Oh, my God. You know what's crazy is he was drafted 6 years after Brady. I'm just putting in perspective how long Brady's career was randomly.
23 years.
Yes, that's insane. But yeah, I mean, again, I look at him as a blocking tight end. We have enough blocking tight end options. I don't think we need to add another one there. So the only legitimate option I look at is Logan Ryan. I said Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan was the old safety for us. Logan Thomas. Wrong Logan. Getting my Logans mixed up. Hey, Bob.
Talking to me, Bub. Let's go.
I can't not do a Wolverine impression, not say Bub. I don't know. Damn you, X-Men, the animated series. You ruined any of their options for me. Hey, Bub. Anyway, Logan Thomas is to me the only option that I would even consider. And I don't know if it's a need. And the main reason I say this is because even without having Darren Waller there, would potentially signing somebody else stifle the development of the other guys that we want to develop, on top of the fact that Logan Thomas will probably just get hurt again anyway.
Touché.
Not to be a jerk again. I feel like a jerk when I say this. I was like at my back of my head, what if they happen to listen? Oh. But yeah, I mean, that's honestly what I look at that's the biggest concern I have is you're going to potentially stifle somebody's development for a guy that you don't plan on keeping long term, and maybe he'll just get injured himself, and then you lost valuable time in camp with these guys starting. You're taking snaps away from them for a guy that you can't trust to be on the field. So, again, it sounds mean, but it's the honest truth. So, I wouldn't hate the move, but if Waller retires, hypothetically, just keep it as is, guys. We got enough holes.
I was gonna say, yeah,
we got enough holes. Unless Logan Thomas wants to come at like a vetman kind of deal. Let's get a vet minimum. We can pay him $1 million and $1.5 million, whatever it is. What the hell?
So you're saying to fill the holes.
Oh yeah. Fill the tight end hole. What?
Whoa. Get up in there, fill it.
Whoa. Alrighty, guys. We got one more thing to talk about here, but we're gonna pay the bills first because Rob's gonna have a conniption fit if we don't. He's gonna. I can see it. I can see it. He's convulsing. He's convulsing. Check the pulse.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All right, now we record live. This is usually where we would discuss your wonderful comments, and I'm sure they're there. We appreciate them.
Connor, thanks for that. Hey, Deb, how you doing?
And I think that Rob may be on live at that point, which you guys are going over comments. Being that I'm going to be in a different country, I think it's not. I think it's the same continent. I think it's still Central America, it's North America, right? I think it's still North America, Honduras.
Yes, technically.
Geography program, guys, come on. But I'll still be like so far away. It's not even funny that who knows what availability I will have to do anything like that. Plus, I'm on vacation and like to stay married. So, yeah, she would not be very happy. Plus, I'll be really, really drunk. We have the drink package on this boat, so therefore,
honey, the fans.
Yes. What about OnlyFans? What? No, not those fans. Yeah. The different thing. That's where I post my feet pictures. But yeah, we got one more segment here to go with you guys, and that is we got to go over: are the tight ends position better or worse for this season? Like, have we improved this group from last year? And talk about a difficult, question to answer. As I love the fact that I had to use Darren Waller as a rapper in there. Yeah. But there's so many variables. Does Darren Waller play? If he plays, can he somehow stay healthy? Does Bellinger bounce back from a rough second year? How good is Theo Johnson going to be? There's a lot of question marks here, guys.
Are we going to keep the fourth tight end or keep it as 3?
Yeah. I mean, I would say this. If I had to guess, which we kind of have to because we don't know what's going to happen with Waller. If Waller retires like I think he will, we're worse at the starting position. But I think we're better in the depth side of it because Theo Johnson is better than anybody else we had at backup tight end there, obviously minus Waller and Bellinger at that point there. Right off the bat, we had basically, besides those two, we had a lot of scrubs in there basically at that point there. We got a blocking tight end options. Again, I think we're going to keep one. And the fact that we have 3 guys who are going to battle it out for that kind of spot there tells you that we're probably going to have a decent blocking tight end at that point too as well. When you got competition, it tends to, make it where you have a decent option because you had your pick of 3. So I fully expect that to be a better position overall for depth. But starting wise, you're going to see it worse because you're not going to have Darren Waller, or you're going to have Darren Waller who wasn't even sure if he wanted to play this year. I don't care how dedicated he is and stuff like that. But let's be honest, with everything he's got going in his personal life right now, and the fact that he still doesn't know if he wants to play this year, he's not going to be the same guy to a certain degree. Hopefully it's like 90% of Waller. I'll take 90% of Waller.
Maybe he has 10% less chance to get hurt, so maybe he plays more games. So
that's part of it as well, too, is if, let's say he does come back, when you have him, Waller, and Johnson, Bellinger and Johnson, and let's say Johnson's, shows up at all in his rookie year and shows to be sudden decent, maybe you sit Waller more and keep him healthy, keep him used for more on specifically passing plays. And if that's the case, that's a strength now for him as well. So, like I said, this is a potential to be a stronger group overall, starting and depth-wise. But at the very least, it's going to be stronger depth-wise. I think that's safe to say.
Yes, like you said, it's hard to grade the starters because we don't know. Like,
Nobody knows who's going to be.
Yeah, we don't know. Like, and that depends on how you're going to grade the starter room. But 100%, we have way more depth that has way more talent compared to last year, compared to 2 more years ago when it was 4 guys in the locker room. Had to pick up.
Remember, we had to pick up Bellinger in the draft and start him for lack of a better option his rookie year. Like, there was no other option.
Yeah.
Like, that was a bad group. And it's funny because obviously, the position group 2 years ago overall was the issue as far as receiver, tight end. Obviously we had Saquon back then, so the running back issue wasn't really there as much. But look at what this team has done at the tight end and receiver room in the last 2 years. Shane has definitely pulled some magic off there.
100%. Is it where we want it to be?
Out of the hat.
Yeah. Way down in there.
Yeah. Digging deep in that tight end.
Yeah.
What?
So deep.
Whoa.
Elbow deep.
Hello. Anyway. So yeah, guys. So we'll be back again for you guys Wednesday night here. We're gonna have another edition here of the position group breakdowns here for you guys. So keep an eye out for that. That will be the defensive line one you guys will see on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter/Twitch, X, and of course Rob's favorite, my LinkedIn profile. I'll say this, and I try not to beg too much, guys, but please hit that subscribe button.
Please ring that bell.
Subscribe. Share it to a friend. Ask them to subscribe. We also, of course, had the audio version, which will typically pop on 5 o'clock in the morning there the following day on all the audio podcast platforms. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the big ones there. So appreciate you guys listening again, as always. Greetings mentally from Honduras. And like I said, we'll see you guys again Wednesday for the defensive line edition there. Appreciate you listening as always. And as always, Giant fans,
go G-Man!
G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.